Egyptians should start enjoying increased food subsidies from Saturday, July 1st. Monthly allocation rises from the current 21 Egyptian pounds a person to 50 pounds, which is just about $2.70. Now, other measures expected to ease the pain of austerity measures and also take effect tomorrow include a freeze to taxes on agricultural land and a 15% increase in civil servants' pensions. All these will come at a cost of $4.17 billion on the country's budget and is expected to benefit up to 90% of the Egyptian population. Now, Egyptians have been squeezed by inflation that has hit a 3-decade high in the country. Egypt also lifted fuel subsidies on Thursday, doubling some of those prices. Of course, these have been part of recommendations by the International Monetary Fund ahead of the release of a $12 billion lending program. Well, Adele El Maroui now joins me in Cairo with some insight into this. Adele, welcome to the show. Now, as we just mentioned, Egypt just raised its fuel prices by almost 50%, but we also did see government include a $4.2 billion social spending package. It more than doubled monthly food subsidies. Now, is this an attempt to balance these reforms, which of course would help limit that financial impact on poor Egyptians?
Well, definitely that's the purpose that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has announced. And there is usually the same structure of movement in prices that are always accompanying each other. A reduction in subsidies and power subsidies when prices going up, and at the same time, on the other hand, the government would increase the food stamps and increase pensions as well. So it is an entire package that aims to restructure the subsidy system to move it from those who do not really deserve the subsidies from the Egyptian government's perspective, mainly car owners, for example, and take the money that used to subsidize gasoline, for example, for these segments of society and move it to direct support or direct financial support to regular Egyptians. That's the general note, but usually Egyptians, or at least most of them, usually complain that with the increase in prices and fuel, that would lead to increase in products in almost every good in the market, and the increase of money they get in direct payments through their ration cards, it usually ends up for most Egyptians to be the same.
Now, Adele, we know these austerity measures have had somewhat of a negative impact on LCC's public standing, but how much has it damaged the social and political support for Egypt's reform program?
Well, Egyptians have always complained, and they still are. Even this week, we've seen lots of movements, lots of opinion announcement from Egyptians in newspapers, in the media, and on social media as well. They all say that to them, the rate by which the government is moving to reduce the subsidies is faster than they can afford. Salaries have not increased maybe at all for some Egyptians, while the prices are going up. Even the ration cards, while, as you said, the budget dedicated to each person more than doubled from 21 Egyptian pounds, that's $2.50 almost, to $50, sorry, from $1.50 to almost $2.50 for each individual. But at the same time, the supply minister just announced an increase in oil and sugar, some of the items including oil and sugar in the government supply chains as well, which means that even with that increase, the amount of the goods that Egyptians will get may not change significantly. So overall, they feel the pressure. They want the government to slow down until at least the wages system has been restructured. The government has announced that there will be an increase about 10 to 15% in some of the public government employees, but that does not include the private sector or even the rest of the government organizations.
Now, like we mentioned, Adele, Egypt is taking measures to lighten the burden on Egyptians, but have we seen some of these come on board? And if not, when are we going to hear about them?
Well, it is not clear significantly, or there isn't no precise announcement about specific timings in any of the restructure reform. Even just the latest move in oil and fuel prices was expected to be in July. Yes, 2 days ahead, the government is not far from the deadline, but this was even the first time that the government announced with a significant time ahead of the timing of a change in subsidies. Since April, I think the government started to give this red alarm that prices will change, and even electricity bills also will increase. But as from what you said, as this is a first of a kind, will it continue? It's still not clear. Will the government be more transparent in the next moves and give clear indications so that people would be able even to have to see relief coming on a short or medium terms? We're waiting for physical announcement, physical changes from the government and actual announcements to be made. But all in all, this entire change, does it change from the burden over the government's deficit? It doesn't seem so, because mainly, for example, the government has saved about 35 billion Egyptian pounds, that's nearly 2 billion US dollars from the fuel subsidies. It has moved these 35 and added another 5 billion to the ration cards, for example. So the government, comparing just these two segments, will be paying more actually, but it's just restructuring how it's spending. And this may be crucial for the country in the coming days. The President is asking the people to be patient, and that relief may be coming soon.
Well, many thanks, Adel El Maroui in Cairo.